Jamie, great to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, James. Really appreciate the invite.
Do you know what? I was thinking about it before we started talking today. You and I have known each other for 10 years now. I first
Yes.
came over to Australia. I think you were probably the first person I met when I jumped off the plane when we were both, you know, salesmen pounding the pavement back in the old Enable days.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can remember it because if I can remember, I think the first time I saw you, we went out for some drinks that night as well. So,
I think we did. We've certainly got a little bit less hair on our heads
yeah,
today.
it's the best way to get to know someone, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, look, it's great to have you on the podcast today. You're now the head of sales for Dropsuite for their Asia Pacific business, and Dropsuite was one of the launch vendors that Packsite came to market with when we launched a year ago. We've done some great things together. Dropsuite's doing incredibly well. You've been driving that success in the market, and I really wanted to get you on today to learn a little bit more about Dropsuite. You know, some partners have heard of it, some haven't. They think, oh, that's another SaaS backup solution. But you guys have got some unique competitive differentiators, and I wanted you to just tell me, what is Dropsuite doing a little bit different that's allowing you to get ahead of the competition in certain cases?
Yeah, good question. Number one, I'd say as a vendor, we're hyper focused. We're a one vendor. We're hyper focused on cloud backup and archiving of Microsoft 365 in Google Workspace. And we've been doing that consistently since 2014, have been the first provider to bring SharePoint. We also do Teams and private chat, which is a large thing that our competitors are not really concentrating on. And I'd say that one of the big differentiators, because we're hyper focused, our objective is to be the absolute best in this space. A large majority of our competitors are focusing on four or five or six different products, and M365 backup usually stays at the bottom. So that's one of the key differentiators. Secondly, I'd say the archiving piece is a big one that we're winning business from. Traditional incremental backup is just not cutting it for a large majority of professional organizations, financial, government, lawyers, doctors, and they're required to store literally every single email that's sent or received to their business. So
I
that's
want to
where we
just
come in.
ask you a question on this, and
Yeah.
treat me like the dummy that I am. What is archiving, and how is archiving different from backup?
So most of our competitors they'll do incremental backup. So in some cases, if the data is lost, let's say, let's pick the easiest one. Let's say an employee is gone rogue, they're disgruntled, they decide to send off 50 malicious emails to your customer base, for instance. If they immediately delete those emails, in some cases with incremental cloud to cloud, because it's only point in time, it won't pick up those deleted emails, right? So it won't be storing those in a backed up file in a backed up folder somewhere else because they've
Yeah,
been deleted.
yeah.
So with archiving, what we're able to do is capture every single sent or received email, and we store that in our Dropsuite data center here locally in Australia, so that every single email can be recalled if required from the point in time you add Dropsuite into the organization. So that's the key differentiator. Most backup solutions are incremental, point in time. With the email archiving solution from Dropsuite, we do it immediate capture.
So that's a lot more granular. So I'm guessing that if certain industries, organizations have got specific deals where they need to track every single change that's happened in an email system or in the 365 environment, the Dropsuite can offer that. I'm guessing medical, financial institutions probably see value
Correct.
in that. Yeah,
Email is typically the most required because
yeah,
people say they sent an email, they didn't really send it, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And invoices, and that's really traditionally the way we deal with vendors or the outside
yeah.
world. So in most cases, the most important, and that's a key differentiator for us.
Gotcha. And just a more general question: when you look
Sure.
at the SMB market as a whole, and maybe the mid market, maybe enterprise, and look at the opportunity for Dropsuite and the opportunity for SaaS providers out there, would you describe it as heavily saturated with a lot of competition, or is there actually a lot of greenfield? Where should partners be going and having these conversations? Because I guess part of your strategy is delivering a higher quality solution to certain partners that need the extra functionality and benefits. But also, I imagine there's a big opportunity to go for net new opportunities where certain customers aren't even using this today.
You're 100% correct. And M365 is probably the most predominant in this local space, but we do see a large majority of people just not bothering with Google because it's not a big part of the customers they service. They've made a big push into M365. So I think Google gives that opportunity to take a customer on early and potentially grow them up. But more specifically to the point around archiving, I think you've known me for 10 years, as we said. I've been a massive advocate in the MSP space about verticalizing, right? Like MSPs traditionally just bring on any customer they can. And I think, it's really good to key into your customer base and understand where you're good. Is it accounting? Is it, medical? And start to hyper focus in those arenas. And I think that's where archiving differentiates itself massively in the space. It's a good conversation to get in, and then obviously win that backup opportunity from the net new customer
So do
acquisition.
you think there's still a lot of customers that are underserviced today and actually haven't had the conversation around backing up their data and actually at risk for all these threats?
100%. A hundred
Yeah.
percent.
Okay.
I think there's a large majority of opportunity. I worked for an MSP. I consulted for an MSP before I joined Dropsuite,
Yeah.
and I'd have conversations with the direct user, and a large majority, the MSP is doing such a good job. They're not
Yeah.
asking any other questions
Yeah.
outside of what the MSP is doing. So I think there's a massive opportunity to
Mm.
really, get your stripes, understand what you're talking about, who you're talking to, and
Yeah.
then get out in front of them and have a different conversation than everybody else is trying to have with their customers to win their IT
Yeah, I
business.
love that and completely share that sentiment. And I guess that would be my tip is verticalize, become an industry subject matter expert, become a product or category subject matter expert as well, and go off and use case studies and go off hunting. You
Yeah.
know, as the MSP in that space, and I love the fact that you guys are doing something different with archiving as well.
And
Um,
I want to say on that point too, when I talk about verticalization, a large majority of people think that all I have to do is concentrate on dentists or doctors. And that's not the case. You can still run your business quite effectively and bring on new customers. But if you have a focus and you have an understanding of the industry you're verticalizing in, it makes that conversation a lot easier the more and more you have it.
mm,
So I just wanted to add that point because I think that's the thing that a lot of MSPs miss is that, if I verticalize, I can only concentrate on this market and not get
mm,
any other
mm.
customers. And that's just simply not the case.
And I think just looking at the future of the MSP space, with commoditization of IT support services and yeah, MSPs and technology service providers need to differentiate themselves. And I think the future is around adding incremental value, offering consulting services, helping them to their customers to achieve competitive edge in their own line of work. And you can use the capabilities and value of the Dropsuite and the security stack to help go out there and do that. So I want to transition a little bit around talking of value, and I want to align like the Dropsuite value conversation with the PAX 8 conversation. We've gone through a little bit of soul searching internally. We've got a whole host of different softwares that we offer. We've got business coaching. We've got professional services. And when we looked at what we did, we realized that our core value proposition to our channel partners is that we want to help them to grow their business, typically driving top line new revenue. We want to help them to drive bottom line efficiency and profitability, which comes through reducing operational costs. And we want to help them to mitigate the risks for their business and also their customers' businesses. So if we said those are the three value pillars that PAX 8 goes to market with, how does Dropsuite fit into one or two or even three of those?
Yeah, I would say, from a money perspective, I think, with M365 being predominantly what our MSPs are selling, there's a fine margin on that and they have to stay very competitive. So it's really about what you package or bundle onto that solution. And I think that comes in the way of the security solutions that are out there. Dropsuite being one of them. So what we found is for the extra $3 or $4 at cost on Dropsuite, they're adding a significant margin to that M365 license, and a large majority of times they're actually opening a bigger conversation around more security solutions around the suite, whether it be DNS filtering or EDR or any of the other solutions out there. In relation to save money, I think one of the key things is because we're a third party and we've really spent a lot of time on our engine, the search functionality, the automation of our product will really reduce tech time when it comes down to, that regular call you get, oops, I've mistakenly deleted a SharePoint file or a folder or an email. And it makes it very quick for you to be able to search, respond, and restore to, that data that's lost. And then I think, from a risk reduction perspective, I mean, it's backup, right? At the end of the day, if something does happen, while Microsoft is a phenomenal company and we endeavor to work with them as much as we can, the reality of the situation is that they're not always going to be or not responsible for that data loss. So having an insurance policy in Dropsuite where you have it in a secure cloud in the local market in Australia, and you're able to access that data when required, if there is a ransomware attack or a data loss, then it definitely reduces that risk and makes it even easier for you to restore that company data in those grim times.
Love that. So you're ticking all three of those boxes. Perfect.
That's it.
And you're right. Like backup at the end of the day, the essential eight, the backup and recovery is the final piece of the puzzle.
Everybody knows backup. I mean, from the dawn of IT, it's been AV and backup, right?
Yeah.
I think where the line gets jaded is cloud to cloud. Well, Microsoft's already backing up my data, so why do I need a third party? And it's not necessarily that you won't be able to recover through Microsoft, but in the case you can't, it's gone. So the goal is to
and they even recommend having a third party. They've got the shared responsibility model, don't they?
Correct, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Awesome. Well, look, you've been in the industry for 15 years. We were saying earlier. You don't even look old enough to have been in it for 15 years, Jamie. The industry's obviously been good to you.
Yeah.
You've seen
Thanks
a
for
lot of
that.
change. You've seen a lot of change happen, no doubt, and there's a lot of changes happened in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
What's your prediction for the next 2 years?
2 years goes fast in the industry, right? It's almost, I can remember all the changes we've gone through. If we talk about ANZ more specifically, I mean, it's already there, right? We see Optus, we see Medibank, we see Latitude Pay. And in these specific scenarios, it wasn't just credit card information that lost. In some cases, we saw passport data, driver's license, Medicare data. And therefore, I believe that the government's going to step in with stricter regulations and compliancy requirements around probably the enterprise to mid-market space first. And I think that's going to very quickly trickle down to the SMB space. So I guess I'd say if there's anybody out there who really hasn't figured out their security solutions and they don't know or don't trust their vendors or they're not happy, it's really time for you to key in and evaluate who those vendors are going to be, because if, as those compliances and regulations come into play, you want to be firm. You don't want to be changing vendors in that next month or scrambling to do things because it doesn't line up with what your customer requirements are. So I think it's really important for you to focus in on who those vendors are and make sure that you've got skin in the game with them in order to bring you forward into the new world. And that's what I really see, a similar situation to America or EMEA. It's coming quickly here in Australia as well with these large breaches.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hearing stories, and it is coming quickly. I think compliance is going to be a big piece, and I think that for those businesses that don't tick the certain boxes that are required, then they're going to be in a position where they're going to struggle to find customers that can do business with them because there's a lack of compliance there. So
it's very scary, like you should start looking at your tier A customers down, the ones who bring you the most money. It's usually a 20-80% rule that MSPs usually go by. Look at those customers and understand what their requirements and how, their landscape could change over the next 2 years, and make sure you're ready for those changes, because if you're not, it's very quick that they could choose someone else.
Absolutely. And final question for you. As an MSP veteran, partnering with, I would imagine, thousands of MSPs over the years, what would be your one tip that you would offer an MSP today? Yeah,
that's a good question. And you know what? You brought a video out off the recent travel, and unfortunately we weren't able to make it with you, but you talked about running a good event, and I believe, like, to expand on that a little bit more, I still see a large majority of MSPs who think of themselves as the people to keep business availability. The less I see my customer, the more I bill them, the better off, or the better off this situation is. I know that people are getting paid well for the work they're doing, and they should be getting paid well. But I think that, it's really time for you to start to look at individuals who can go out and educate customers as to the risks that are out there in the world today, what it means to them, what it means to their business. And even if that doesn't translate to a sale immediately, the reality is I believe with that education, you're going to go a lot farther with the customers. You don't want to rely on, the media today, the big headlines to educate your customers, because in those situations, they'll make rash decisions. So the goal is to make sure that you go out and have those conversations, bring a box of donuts, bring a coffee and have it. Or, to take a page out of your book, do an event, do a breakfast event or a lunch and learn or a one-to-many, invite a vendor and walk through the different scenarios for the people that are in the room. And I think that's a really key thing that I think a lot of MSPs are missing. They're doing the traditional work that they've done for years, and they don't understand, like, they haven't really thought about the role evolving outside of just providing IT services.
Yeah, I agree, and I get nervous when I speak to partners and I ask them about their marketing and sales strategy, and they think that there is a silver bullet that is going to pay someone some marketing money, and then all of a sudden they get lots of leads. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
It doesn't.
It is more strategic, but you know what? Do the fundamentals right. Get out in front of your customers, build a relationship, educate them, teach them something, and you're going to put yourself in a better position than if you hadn't done that. So
they'll walk out 9 times out of 10 feeling 100% more confident about where they sit with you and where they sit from a security perspective, outlining the things that you do for them today to mitigate risk in their organization and the things that you could potentially doing more of. And I think it's just a conversation we're missing the point on a large majority of time. And that's a director to director, or someone higher level who's controlling the security to have those conversations, not just your regular account manager or something like that. I think it comes down to those really hardcore conversations between an owner and the owner of your partner or the client.
Well, appreciate it, Jamie. It's been great having you on today. Looking forward to a lot of success moving forward.
Me too.
Wish you the very best as we continue throughout the year, but appreciate your time, appreciate the tips, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, James. I really appreciate the invite. It's been a great time spent with you today.
Yeah, likewise. Take care, Jamie.
Cheers.